Hey everybody, just a quick lead into the video we were about to see. In this video, I am going to be trying to take the Vevor diesel electric heater and turn it into something portable, like this old kerosene heater that I've had for decades. So that's coming up. Also, I just want you guys to know that I am going to be using a different camera now. I have switched to a DJI Osmo Action. And so if things look or sound a little bit differently, that's just me kind of getting used to everything and finding the best settings and all that. So bear with me, and here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back. It is a new year. It's actually middle of January at the moment, but I think this is the first video I've made this year. And I have just been bombarded with customer work, the kind of work that actually pays the bills around here. So I haven't had the time to do a lot of the fun stuff, but I got a day free today, and I might even have the weekend free too. So I want to knock out this portable Vevor heater project. If you watched my short about how to cope this, I have made the bottom out of this old 3-inch exhaust tubing, and I've coped it to fit, and I have screwed it down to it. And if you watched another one of my shorts, you'll see I could not run this heater off of one of these 200-watt little LED, LED power supplies. It just cannot, at 110 volts or 120 volts, it cannot provide enough power to run it. But two of them will, and two of them will still fit in here. And that is my intention. I'm going to print some 3D caps. I'm going to put the power supplies in there. And that way I can just put holes in the caps and I can glue it all together, or I won't even need to glue it all together. And I can keep my power supplies in there. I've also found out, I don't know what I did with it, but I found out it will run off a 3S LiPo just fine. So I got a 5200 milliamp hour, not 5200 amp, but that I can store in one of these. And I'm going to use some thin wall 2x2 square tube I bought. It's hard to find 2x2 square tube. Have you guys tried? I've been waiting to get some for weeks and I still couldn't get the wall thickness I wanted. So I settled on like 0.65 or something like that wall thickness. It's like 1/16 of an inch. And I am going to be using that to build up off the sides. And that's going to give me even more storage, because one of the things I want to do is I also want to store enough leads to run 12-volt power to like a car battery, with a couple of clamps. So I'm going to do that. Let me show you what I've done so far. Let me get this off to one side. Yes, I know I'm supposed to run this downhill, but you know what? I can't in this setup. It's got to go up. It can't go down. So let me tip it over and let me show you kind of sort of what I did. So can you see in there? You can't see in there, can you? Let me get a light. Hang on. Okay, so maybe that's enough light for you guys to see what I've done under here. I have taken some round tubing and I have built intake and exhaust elbows for this so that it can run out to the side. The outlets on the inlet and outlet on the combustion chamber itself is in millimeters, and there is no metric tubing around me. So I actually had to put some slices in that tube and shrink it down and weld it in order to get it in, and then I just clamped it on. So that's my intake and exhaust. And I'm just going to use that thin wall square tube to build myself some sides, and then I'm probably going to use some of the 1-inch square tube I got. I bought 20 feet of that, and I bought 24 feet of that 2x2 to go across the top. Now the handle has to be removable so the whole top can come off. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to work that out yet, but I mean, that won't be hard at all. So let's get to it. I'm going to cut some pieces, cope them, get them tacked on there, and we'll tack the whole thing up, and then we'll weld it. Then we'll make brackets for because I'm not going to leave it be duct tape. We'll make brackets for the intake. We'll make brackets for the exhaust. We will 3D print caps for the round and 3D print caps for the square. So, slight change of plans. My original intention had been to put 2 of these per side, there, and then put a piece between them with a handle across. And the more I got to thinking about it, the more I thought, you know, that's completely unnecessary. I have all the storage I need in those 2 lower tubes. Why not just put 1 of these on either side and then put the handle across the top? That'll cut down the material usage, it'll cut down the weight, and I don't think I'll be losing anything of value. So, okay, let's go over to the welding table and let's see what I've got, because that is where I'm working off of right at the moment. And this is kind of like being Vevor day. I got the Vevor heater, I'm welding it up with the Vevor welder, I'm on the Vevor welding table, and I use the Vevor anvil. And if you guys don't have an anvil and you're still trying to pound shit on your vise or on your floor, let me tell you, an anvil and a decent hammer, even a small one, like this one from Harbor Freight here, it's so much easier when you're pounding on something that doesn't dent, doesn't shatter, and doesn't give. Even a small one like that, let me tell you, it makes a big difference. They're cheap, get one, you'll need it. So here's what I've got. Here's what I have done. I have cut these pieces to length. I have coped them on the bottom, tacked them. I made myself some caps, and I made myself caps out of piece of the 2-inch tubing. I drilled holes in the center or somewhere near the center, and I put a tack welded a 5/16 carriage bolt on the bottom. I made myself a handle, and as you'll see, that one isn't anywhere near the center. This is going to be the handle. I'm going to put some washers and some wing nuts on the top. There's more than enough room to get a big gloved fist in under it to pick it up. There's extra the handles here that are only on the case, so I would not want to pick it up by that except just to steady it. The main way to pick it up is going to be this handle, and I have taken some round stock and bent it into a U-shape, and I'm just going to put a hose clamp around there. That's going to hold my intake, and I did the same thing back here, and that's going to hold my exhaust just with a hose clamp around there. And if I didn't already mention it, yes, I know, condensation. This should point all downward to let condensation out. Remember how I'm using this. This is going to be an emergency heater. This isn't going to be something that runs 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. This is for emergency use. And also remember where I live. I live in the desert. I don't need to worry that much about moisture here. Anyway, time has come. I've got to get this out. I got to unbolt it here and here, or take those self-tappers out. They're just self-tappers now. I think that'll be fine. 2 in the front, 2 in the back. I'm going to lift the whole thing out, and I'm going to get it welded and painted. I'll probably 3D print caps for front and back here, and 3D print some caps for here. And I was going to 3D print something to hold the power supply in the center here, but it fits so snugly now. I think probably what I'll just do is put some big-ass O-rings around it or something, and even those wire ties aren't bad to hold that. And this thing will be done. We'll get it painted, we'll get it back together, and we will test it and see how we like it. Okay, so there it is, all done and painted. Well, actually, the paint's still drying. And I painted it with the Rust-Oleum black undercoating just because I wanted to make it a color which you guys couldn't possibly see what it is in the video. No, actually, I used it because, and you've probably already guessed it, because I'm a cheapskate and I already had it. Okay, so there it is. I'm liking it. What do you guys think? I'm liking that a lot. So I'm going to run inside and print myself up some 3-inch end caps and some 1-inch end caps on whatever 3D printer that I happen to have set up and working, probably the Geetek A10M. I've done 3-inch and 1-inch round and 1-inch square caps before, so I already have the code needed to do it. I'm out of hose clamps. I can't believe it. I must have bought a box of 500 hose clamps, but I don't have any more of this size. So I just used a zip tie on the intake. And over here on the exhaust, I just used some stainless steel safety wire just to hold it there till I get some more hose clamps. Okay, I added in my my little end caps. That one's kind of coming out. These aren't as tight as I would have liked. I may glue those. These fit beautifully. They are tight enough not to come out, but they are also loose enough that I could pop them out if I want to store something in there. I have the ones on the back on. This one I cut a kind of hole in a slot in it to let the power cord go in to where my two LED power supplies are that I have hooked together, and the power wire come out to power the heater. And I put the muffler on it. Honestly, I don't think that's really necessary, but with it on there, it almost kind of makes it look like I ought to put wheel, seat, and handlebars on it. And casters might be useful on it. I don't know that they're necessary, but at some point in time, if I use this and play with it, I might find casters to be something useful on it. So, what do y'all think? I'm really, really pleased with how it turned out, and I think we ought to take it out and let it run for about an hour. Okay, so we got it outside, and it is a really overcast, dreary day today in the Arizona desert. It is plugged in. Let's turn it on. Oh, it can already see the screen. Can you see the screen? I can barely see it. Says I got 12 volts. There we go. Heat level 3. Fans running. Let's make sure the igniter comes all the way up, because that was my problem running it on just one of these power supplies. The fans would come on, the screen would light up, but as soon as the fuel pump and the igniter would start, the voltage would drop so low that it would not stay running. So let's just make sure that it fires up. And I have tested it, I know that it does. Not sure what its startup process is, but it takes a couple of minutes, and then you'll hear the fuel pump turn on and start going tick, 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 and the fans will speed up and the igniter. That's the fuel pump right there. And remember, this heater can be set at a heat level where it will keep pumping out that amount of heat until it runs out of fuel or you turn it off. It can also be set to maintain a specific temperature. And this thing pumps out enough heat that for me, where I live, I don't think I would ever be having it set above heat level 1. So for this test, I'm going to go ahead and turn it down. And we're going to go from H3. We're going to go to H1. And what time is it right now? It is 1:36. Let's let it run for an hour. Okay, so it has been right around an hour, and this thing's still sitting here happily chugging away. Let's power it off and take it back inside. I want to do kind of a size comparison with the other one. Takes it about 4 or 5 minutes to shut off, but when it's done, we'll go back inside and compare. Okay, here they are side by side, so we can get an idea of about their different sizes. This one looks like it's a lot bigger, but in reality, if you measure the widest, longest, tallest parts of each one, they are very similar. So this one, it does weigh a little bit less. This one, from carrying around, I'm guessing this one probably weighs 10, 15 pounds less than this one. This one, of course, runs off kerosene and requires no electric power. This one runs off diesel and does require either 12 volts from a battery or a power supply that can provide 12 volts. And it will need a genuine, I'm saying go 120 watts on the low end of this. I bought a 200 watt power supply, but that was 200 watts when plugged into 220 volts. So I wound up having to combine two of them together. But it will happily run off any battery, decent sized battery. I ran it off a 3S LiPo, 5200 milliamp 3S LiPo, and it ran fine on that for an hour. So, it can run off a battery. And this one requires no electrical power at all. It can plug a little fan into it. You can even put batteries in it to run the igniter, but it doesn't really need any of that. And this thing pumps out a lot of heat very, very quickly. It's got a very forceful fan output. It will heat up a small area really quick, whereas this one will not. This one, you know, it's a radiant only heater and you're going to be huddled around it for an hour until it heats the whole room up. Not the case with this one. This one can be run indoors. They tell you not to, but I did it for a long time. You got to have some ventilation. This one, you really do need to pump the exhaust outside, or else keep this whole unit outside and use the hose coming out of here inside, whichever works best for you. I have some upgrades, I think, planned for this in the future. I think it would be nice to have a terminal block back here where I could easily hook up 12 volts or the 12 volts from the power supply that's down in the lower leg. I think it might also be nice to have a 25 feet of positive and negative wires with clamps on the end so you could run it out to a battery stored down there as well. But this is definitely going to go into my little arsenal of things to hang around for when things go to hell. And thanks to Vevor for sending that out. Thanks to you guys for watching my videos and using my affiliate links, and there will be more of those below. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.